Stay with us. King of Woolworth, stimulus profession here on Democracy Now!, stimulus progression here on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. As we return now to the last part of my conversation with leading American intellectual and anti-imperialist critic Noam Chomsky. The whole issue of populist rage, Noam Chomsky, actually, do you think that this rage is going to boil over as the unemployment figures rise?
It's very hard to predict those things. I mean, it has a potentially positive side, like it could be like the activism of the 1930s or the 1960s, which ended up making it a more civilized society in many ways. Or it could be like an unfortunate precedent that quickly comes to mind. I've written about it. You take a look at Germany. In the 1920s, Germany was the absolute peak of Western civilization. In the arts and the sciences, it was regarded as a model of democracy and so on. I mean, 10 years later, it was the depths of barbarism. That was a quick transition. Descent into barbarism, it's sometimes called in the literature, scholarly literature. Now, if you listen to early Nazi propaganda, end of the Weimar Republic and so on, and you listen to talk radio in the United States, which I often do, it's interesting, there's a resemblance. And in both cases, you have a lot of demagogues appealing to people with real grievances. Grievances aren't invented. I mean, for the American population, the last 30 years have been some of the worst in economic history. It's a rich country, but real wages have stagnated or declined. Working hours have shot up. Benefits have gone down, and people are in real trouble, and now in very real trouble after the bubbles burst. And they're angry, and they want to know what happened to me. I'm a hardworking, white, God-fearing American. How come this is happening to me? That's pretty much the Nazi appeal. The grievances were real. And one of the possibilities is what Rush Limbaugh tells you. Well, it's happening to you because of those bad guys out there. Okay, in the Nazi case, it was the Jews and the Bolsheviks. Here it's the rich Democrats who run Wall Street and run the media, give everything away to illegal immigrants, and so on and so forth. It sort of peaked during the Sarah Palin period. And it's kind of interesting. It's been pointed out that of all the candidates, Sarah Palin's the only one who used the phrase working class. She was talking to working people. And yeah, they're the ones who are suffering. So there are models that are not very attractive.
And she very much is being talked about as a leader, really, of Republican Party.
She was kind of a model. The talk radio mob went crazy over it. And one shouldn't demean it. They describe themselves, it's really worth listening to. We're flyby country. They don't care about us, those rich Democrats on the East Coast and the West Coast who are all, interested in gay rights and giving things away to illegal immigrants and so on. They don't care about us, the hardworking, God-fearing people. So we got to somehow rise up and take over and elect Sarah Palin or Rush Limbaugh or someone like that. as I say, the precedents are not attractive. Now, if, not even before the next presidential, if in the next congressional election, the economy has not begun to recover, this kind of populist rage could boil over and could have very dangerous consequences. This country has a long history of being kind of ridden by fear. It's a very frightened country. It goes back to colonial times. I mean, we're very lucky that we have never had an honest demagogue. I mean, the demagogues we've had are so corrupt that they never got anywhere. You know, Nixon, McCarthy, Jimmy Swaggart and others. So they were kind of destroyed by their own corruption. But suppose we had an honest demagogue, you know, a Hitler type, who was not corrupt. It could be unpleasant. There's a background of concern and fear, tremendous fear, and searching for some answer, which they're not getting from the establishment. Who's responsible for my plight, you know? And that can be exploited. And unless there's active, effective organizing and education, it's dangerous.
Your assessment of President Obama so far?
Frankly, I never had any expectations. I wrote about it over a year ago. I thought then, and I think it's been confirmed, that he's essentially a centrist Democrat. He's moving back. I mean, the Bush administration was kind of off the spectrum, especially the first term. So he's moving things back toward the center with a kind of a public posture, which was recognized by the advertising industry. That's why they gave him the award for best marketing campaign. But as far as policy is concerned, unless he's under a lot of pressure from, activist sectors, he's not going to go beyond what he's presented himself as in actual policy statements or cabinet choices and so on. Centrist Democrat, going to basically continue Bush's policies, maybe in a more modulated way.
Do you see Afghanistan becoming an ever-expanded war in the next decade or so? Do you? Now we're talking about doubling the U.S. troops there.
That's the way Obama and the Pentagon see it. In fact, they say so. This is going to be a long war. It's going to be extended. The U.S. is going to take over the military side, and it's going to expand it. It's going to expand into Pakistan. And I mean, we'll talk about development, but the focus will be on military. Obama right now is trying to get NATO to cooperate, but recognizing that they're not going to send military forces. The populations are opposed.
Canada's pulling out.
Yeah, Canada's pulling out. And the others, maybe Holland has made a termination date, but we'll at least ask them to come in and sort of help out on the civilian side. That's their job. That's the famous line of, I guess it was Robert Kagan, they're Venus, we're Mars. So we'll move in like Mars and take care of the military side. We're good at killing people. And they can come in and sort of put on the Band-Aids and make it look like something good is happening. It's not the right direction.
The unmanned drones bombing Pakistan?
Yeah, drones, and that has effects. So a lot of the worst fighting recently has been in Bajaur province, right on the border. It's in Pakistan side. And militants in the area have reported to the press that part of the reason is that an American drone attack hit a madrasa, a school, and killed about 80 people. Well, they're uncivilized barbarians. They sort of don't like that. So they reacted. And now one of the militants said, okay, we're going to bomb the White House, which is considered totally outrageous. But if we kill as we like, there's going to be a reaction.
Where do you see American empire in 10, 20, 30 years?
The prediction in human affairs is a very low, has very little success, too many complications. I mean, the United States, I think, will come out of the economic crisis, very likely, as the dominant superpower. There's a lot of talk about China and India, and it's real, they're changing, but they're just not in the same league. I mean, both China and India have enormous internal problems that the West doesn't face. You get a kind of a picture of this by looking at the Human Development Index of the United Nations. The last time I looked, India was about 125th or something, and I think China was about 80th. And China would be worse, I think, if it wasn't such a closed society. In India, you sort of get better data so you can see what's happening. China's kind of closed. You don't see what's going on